Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Yovanov. Today, we have a return guest, and he has brought a friend for us to meet, which is awesome. I love meeting new people. So let's just jump right in. I'd like to welcome back the founder of Fourscore Productions, Sean Yauk, and new to the show, Katherine Cappellacci. I think I said that right.
You sure did.
Okay.
Thanks for
I
having
always
us.
worry. Awesome. Well, welcome to the show, both of you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
All right. So I always like to get the audience to know my guests a little bit better. Now, Sean, we've already done this. Everybody knows about you, but let's give a 15-second recap. So a 15-second bio recap of Sean.
Well, I am Sean Yauk. I'm the founder of Fourscore Productions. I'm a theater producer and a musician and composer based in Toronto, Canada. And I am excited to be here to talk a little bit about a cool project, Moment in the Secret Garden, with Katherine Cappellacci, our director, who's joined us as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, Katherine, you have 30 seconds because we don't know who you are. So who is Katherine in 30 seconds?
Oh boy. Hello to all who are listening. My name is Katherine Cappellacci, and I am an actor and singer, musician, jack of all trades, performer based in Toronto. I went to school here, got my undergrad in all those things, and then have been working. It's funny, I have to discount the pandemic, which makes me confused about my life, but I'm sure it does that to everyone. But essentially, I work a lot in theater. I'm more theater based. I've been working in rural theater a lot, which I very much enjoy because I'm an active nature enthusiast and I really like combining all those things. And sometimes people hire me to sing as well, which is just wild. And I've also lately had the opportunity to practice directing, and that's been extremely rewarding, especially on this project. Just really excited to be doing it in person again.
Fantastic. Now, before we get to the project, I want to know how the two of you met. How did these two parallel lines of life cross?
Oh, how much time do you have? Well, I can say that Katherine and I have known each other for, I think, most of our lives. Yes, our families were friends, and
there's a picture of Sean and I in a wagon somewhere.
Yep.
3 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, we go way back. And we've always had a very cool creative relationship. When we were much younger in the olden days, we would always our families would get together and we would put on different shows and film things, do different musical covers and cool stuff. And these were the days before the social media craziness. So the videos exist in, I think, DVD form now. That's sort of dating ourselves a little bit, but
yes, I have
yeah, that's true. And we would make these home movies and DVDs with doing funky things like talk shows, musicals, musical covers, music videos.
We watched the entire film.
Yeah, exactly. The entire film. I think we did an entire parody version of Young Frankenstein. Yeah, the Mel Brooks classic that everyone knows. And we had a lot of chances growing up to do these sorts of creative things and sort of also find ourselves within performance and within the performing arts. And now we have found ourselves sort of working together at a professional capacity on a really cool and unique musical theater project many years later. There's just we're just so happy to be working with each other, but also sort of sharing our creative passions with the public.
Truly, hearing Sean say all of that just makes me so excited, because it like when Sean called and asked for me to do this project, I was like, do you feel like we're fulfilling a prophecy? Because I do. Yeah, I think
We
it's a
are.
really interesting. Yeah, it's fun to look back on those times as us, like 10, 12 years old. Our parents would go have dinner and like the kids would run to the basement and Sean and I would be like, "Okay, here's what we're making tonight." And have an entire thing created and we wouldn't say no to any idea. Everything was like, "Yes, go." And then I would edit it on like Windows Media Player for 45 minutes and then we'd make the parents sit down. By the end of the night, we had a performance they had to watch. Like we just
Had
yeah,
to watch. Yeah.
they had no choice. But yeah, it's fun to look back on that now and see what you and I have decided to do with our lives. It's
Yeah,
really
it's amazing. It's
yeah.
so fun.
That's very cool that you guys know each other so well and you've worked together so much. So before I have one more question, then before I ask about the show, and I love to stir up controversy. Who's the bigger diva?
Catherine.
It might be me. It might be me. Sean is so organized. I feel like yeah, I feel like it's probably but only because I care so much. And I'm like, and then Sean's like, I've got it. And I'm like, oh, you do? Okay, I'll come back down to like a 5 then, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about this project. A Moment in the Secret Garden. What is it? Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, I can start. It was a crazy idea that I had a couple of months ago. Honestly, just when I was, going for walks in the city. And it was back when a couple of, businesses and restaurants were closed down and the streets were a little bit more empty than you'd usually see them. No, I was walking through a lot of parks and urban gardens and just sort of would have liked to have been able to hear and see live performance and live music in those spaces. They were spaces where people naturally were congregating because they were safe. They were outdoors. And I think that when I put more thought into it, I always wanted to do something that was site specific, somewhat immersive and musical. And so I came up with just a starting idea, which was something inspired by The Secret Garden being the 90s musical that was based on the book and had a wonderful score by Lucy Simon. And the music I always found just so inspiring. The messages of healing, of rebirth in nature, and of community were always just so strong, I found. And so I played around with the idea of maybe reworking some of the tunes, but also trying to get together a group of emerging professional musical theater artists to essentially to pull this off in a park space, in a garden space. And that sat for a while in the back of my mind until I was able to get a grant and support from the Musical Stage Company to pull this off. And Musical Stage Company launched an initiative called Musical Moments, where essentially grants were awarded to artists and artistic collectives to make music and live performance happen during this time of rebirth in the city of Toronto, to get professional artists out there doing things and reintroducing people to live performance. And so that's when, after gaining their support, I decided to just put the pedal to the metal and do this thing, figure out the piece. And I knew I needed to get someone who was a well-versed musician and an experienced actor to sort of take a creative lead on this as well, and in terms of really finding, setting a vision for the piece and setting the tone and building it. And Catherine came to front of mind right away, just because Catherine is all of those things. Catherine's also a fantastic artistic leader. and a very organized one too, I will say. Having
Sean.
having having grown up, sort of, working with her in on some funny things, and so once I contacted Katherine and told her a little bit about this piece and this idea, it didn't take long for her to say, "Yep, we'll make this happen." And I'm just so thankful that she was willing to be involved in this crazy piece. So we got a wonderful group of musicians and artists together to fill out that team. William Lee, an arranger, to take some of the music and rework it to make it actually a little bit folksy, acousticy sounding. And we got a wonderful sound designer, Sam Deef, to put together a sound design plot for a garden space. Katherine came on board as the director. Chrislyn, our wonderful vocalist, in addition to Katherine, who also sings in the piece, came on board. We also had Lydia, our wonderful guitarist, and Sophie Kane, our set designer, who came on board to make the garden magical. All the team was assembled, and all these people came together. And for I think 3 to 3.5 weeks remotely, we put all the puzzle pieces together, and practiced and rehearsed sort of on our own until we were able to finally come together at the first performance. It's funny how now that's just how things work. But it worked out so fabulously. And the space that we perform in, and that this piece is in, is a urban garden in front of an old heritage commercial office building at 462 Wellington Street West. So for audience members who come by to see it, it's obviously free, and it is a piece that you can take in as you wish. You don't have to stay for all of it. You can stay for all of it. You have the opportunity to sort of situate yourself wherever you want to be, and explore the garden and explore the music that's taking place in the garden on your own. Cool. That's a very long-winded answer to your question of how did this idea come about. But that's sort of the overview of what the piece is. But I'm sure that Katherine has more to say about just the magic within it, the actual performance that exists within this installation, because it's pretty spectacular. The wonderful things that she's
So Katherine, when Sean approached you with it, was there already something in mind, or did you have a blank slate and you could build from there?
Well, it wasn't completely blank, because Sean had pretty much all the songs picked out from the musical. So he said, here are the songs, the rest is up to you. Mm-hmm. Including how I want to order it, and why, and whatever. So deciding what the overall structure was going to be was really me sitting on the floor playing these songs over and over again, kind of going, oh, what's that saying? Okay, maybe if we put this one first and then that one and then this one, okay, but and by doing that, the story just revealed itself really, really clearly. And I guess using the word story I'm using it very liberally, because it is a concert piece with text in between it, but we wanted it to have an arc. We wanted it to have some kind of structure, to make it more cohesive, to make it more digestible. And I really think that any performance medium does need some kind of arc in order to make it really, really digestible, to audience members. But yeah, so Sean, I said yes, started listening to the music immediately, and had a meeting with Will, our arranger, like the next day or the day after, because in order for him to take these songs from this 90s musical and make them folky and beautiful, he wanted some direction. So I sat down, I made a big chart, and I said, okay, this song, here are the themes that I'm thinking, and we just went through the entire, all 9 or 10 songs that we have, and just said, this one could be a little more this, and this one could be a little more that. And the rest I said, however you want to do that musically, it's up to you. So he did that. And yeah, the story just came out so naturally that I actually once or twice went, whoa, was it that easy? Like, was there something more I should have pulled from this? Because as Sean had already said, societally, we are going through this beautiful rebirth right now. And what says rebirth more than a garden, more than the life cycle of a garden? And that's kind of what I took. So I took these songs and I said, okay, we're going to start with, these songs that are a little bit more the beginning of the cycle, maybe but like just before spring, the realization that there's a possibility of life. And in that, I started I asked Sean what he thought about adding pieces of text between the songs to kind of flesh it out a little bit and to give, a little bit more variety. And he said, yeah, okay, go do. And I did. And I threw in, like, there's a Shakespearean sonnet in there. And then there's a couple poems that I wrote. There's a poem from a local Toronto guy who's really fantastic. I found pieces that I thought spoke to our overall theme of rebirth and rejuvenation, and what it's like to realize that after a long, dark winter, there is a big, beautiful spring. Again, it's just such a timely performance. And we're doing this bi-weekly throughout the summer, right? So I actually think it's going to be even more interesting to do this as we go on. Like, this first one felt really appropriate. The anticipation, the excitement between the performers and the audience members was really palpable because none of us had been in this performance situation in a very long time. And I'm excited to see that relationship kind of grow and kind of just Spidey sense that out in the performances. I think that that's a really exciting thing to get to do when you're on the creative side. But yeah, so we have this overarching theme of rebirth and a beautiful blooming as kind of the climax of the piece, and then kind of a reckoning of what to do with this beautiful blooming and what would make it, again, tying it to where we are societally, like what the other side of the winter looks like, what that kind of means for us as a group of people together. And just the overall cycle of life. It's very ethereal and beautiful, and like Sean said, people are welcome to stay as long as they want or just as they pass by. And I put a lot of thought into that as because no one's going to be able to be like, oh, this is about rebirth if they're walking by, and that's fine. But I was hoping to create a space that was inviting and curious, and kind of like just joyful. That was the number one thing that I've been saying from the beginning to the musicians, and that I say at the beginning of the piece too. Like, I just really want this piece to spark joy, and I think that in a rejuvenation there is a lot of joy. And yeah, I think it's time that we start sticking to that. That's a beautiful part of everything that's going on. And I
So
just
beautiful.
noticed it. Yeah, in this piece. It's just really fun.
Nice. And you said you had your first performance not too long ago. What was that moment like? Because you said it was the first time you've been performing in, well, probably for any of us, 19 months, almost 2 years. So what was it like for you to look out at the audience and then being able to see the audience's reaction? Because this is the first time they've been able to see anything in 18, 19 months. How was that experience? Sean, let's start with you. What was that?
It was very emotional. I think that I could not have anticipated how, well, first of all, how the artists would react to making music and telling stories with each other in real time in one place. It was pretty impactful for the performers involved. As you mentioned, I think this was the first live performance back for every artist involved since at least March of 2020. So many months, years in between. And there was so much joy. There was so much beauty. And there was also just a great sense of healing that was sort of wrapped around the piece while we were performing it. For the audience who were on the receiving end of this, there were a whole number of different reactions that were noticed. We forget that it's also been so long since many people have been able to hear live music and live storytelling. So yeah, the audiences were, there was laughter, there were tears. Some would stay for a little bit, some stayed for all of it. And it was beautiful for us as artists to finally see in real time, to see an audience actively listening to music and to work that we're presenting. I felt very emotional, and I also just felt I was so excited afterwards, knowing that going forward we'll be able to continue to reintroduce live performance into people's lives after this. Such a great sense of joy. I don't know how you felt, Catherine. That was definitely how I felt and what I observed on that first performance.
I definitely felt a lot of that. I think I was the first thing I want to say about how I felt was how I felt at the very end of it, which was like it happened so fast. And I realized this when I went home. I wonder if you did too, Sean. Like all of us were like at tens being like, how was that? What was going on? Like, but it just ended so quickly, and it was so much buildup and so much anticipation that it just happened. And I almost wanted to say, like, we should have just sat down and done it again. Like just there, right now. I think we would have all walked away a little more, a little with a better understanding of what happened. I think that when I reflect on the actual performance and how I was feeling, half of me was back in the saddle, and I recognized Catherine the performer again, like because a lot of it's breaking the fourth wall. I address the audience a lot, but there's basic things like I didn't know where to look. I was like, do I look my mom in the eye for this? I don't know. But the other half of me, the other half of me was just so emotional, just so overwhelmed with getting the opportunity to bounce us off an audience again. Like that to me is the magic of live performance. It's that is what it is. It's this opportunity to feel that reflection, and it was like hearing a different language again that I have not heard in a year and a half, and just trying to remember what was said. It was just, oh, wow. It was a lot, but it was really beautiful and really exciting and all those things. I think the only piece of advice I'm going to give myself, ironically, is I feel like I didn't take a minute to really enjoy myself during it. And it was just because it was so much. It was so much. And that was kind of funny to reflect on, because I've been saying how much I want this to just be joyful. And it was.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
It was also just, the nature of the situation, being on the, creator's end. I'm sitting there going, is that text working? Is this connecting? Is that, it felt kind of like a workshop for me. But I'm feeling way better about it now. And it was just an out of body experience, I would say.
Definitely out of body.
Well, it's so good to have people back performing in live spaces in front of people. So congratulations on getting the project on its feet, and then getting it in front of people and being able to experience that again. I have not been able to do that quite yet. That'll be September. I have my own stuff, but congratulations on that. So when is the next performances, and how can people find out about it?
Well, that's a great question. We have our next performance, I believe on July the 23rd. That's a Friday. And they all take place on Friday evenings at 7:00 p.m. That's when the performances start, though people are free to come earlier to explore the garden and sort of explore the area. After that, we have performances on August the 6th and August the 20th. All at, as I said, 7 p.m. Friday evenings. We're looking at trying to extend. We've already gotten a few requests from viewers and audience members to to add more dates. So again, we couldn't have anticipated the response, the amazing response to the first performance. So we will definitely be posting all of that info at our website, www.fourscoreproductions.com. And also our supporter, the Musical Stage Company, will also be updating their Facebook page and their website with info on the dates and times of these upcoming performances of Moments in the Secret Garden.
Very nice. Very nice. So if you could use only 3 words or less to describe that experience of performing once again, Katherine, what would it be?
Home.
It can be 3 words or less, so home it's okay.
Home. I went home. I went home. I would also say, like, it felt very, what? Okay, I don't know this word. It's a word. It's like connecting to, it felt, I want to say historical. It's not the right word. Sacred. Sacred. I'm going to go with home and sacred.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sean?
Rebirth, healing, and one more, in a weird way, spiritual.
Totally.
Those are my 3 words.
All of them are great words and perfectly describe what theater is, and especially what theater is coming out of this pandemic.
Oh, thank you, John Paul.
No problem. So again, congratulations to the 2 of you. I'm going to try and get down there. I got to look at my schedule and see when I can get down there.
Yes, please come.
And I look forward to this project and any future projects that you both might have. I'll support you as much as I can through my social media and things like that. So
thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's so nice of you.
Yeah,
No
thank you so
problem.
much for having us.
No problem. We were just speaking with Sean and Katherine, the director and the creator of A Moment in the Secret Garden. Today, we're going to be speaking with the creator of the musical Rose and Reparations, using the songs of Rose Marie McCoy. I had never heard of her before, and you're probably thinking the same thing. But singers like Elvis and Nat King Cole, and Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin sure knew her songs. It's time to learn more about Ms. McCoy and the musical Rose and Reparations from today's guest. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show Arlene Corsano. Arlene, hi.
Hi, thank you for having me because you're such a great interviewer. And, and your show, and people are talking about it at True. That's an online community for people in the theater.
Well, thank you. 1 minute in and I'm already a great interview. That's not, there's no bigger compliment. I haven't even done anything.
We've spoken before. Is that
yes, we have. Well, you know what? We've talked, and I know a little bit about you, but our guests do not know you. So, Arlene, we would like the 30-second bio of you. Who is Arlene in 30 seconds?
I'm a former teacher for 25 years. I taught, and I got into theater because we had to make a show every year, and I would write them around the talents that and what the children in my class wanted to do. And that's how, and I would listen to music, and then I'd say, oh, this is about what this could be used for, my turkeys, and I would rewrite words to, like the entertainer, and it would be, please don't eat turkeys. They were begging for their lives. And they realized it was just about Thanksgiving. So I love doing that. And I retired early. I was 51, and I knew some people in the business, Maxine Brown, and I wrote Wild Women Don't Have the Blues, a cabaret show for her, which did well.
Wonderful.
Here in Japan.
So when you were growing up, were you always into theater and musical theater, or is that something you discovered a little bit later in life?
My mother took me because we lived in New Jersey, but right outside of New York. So, you know, a little half-hour bus ride or less, really, probably. Uh, we were, you know, and she would take me to the theater, and another friend of hers and her daughter, and we would go. And I always loved music, and I remember listening when I was a teenager to Johnny Mathis album I had, and I wrote like a whole story around the album. It kind of went in order too, like, found love, lost love, we're back again. And I did it in my head, but never thinking I could do this for, you know, whatever. And that's how I started with Rose. I mean, before Rose, when I retired, I did two documentaries on reparations, one for schools and then one for the general public, and because I got interested in that issue, and then I just put the two together.
Nice. So I guess let's delve right into the show. Tell us a little bit about Rose and Reparations.
Okay, Rose was a songwriter. She started out as a singer. She grew up very poor. She started out as a singer, and just they discovered her almost by accident, her songwriting ability, and she became this huge songwriter. And so I had written other shows about Rose, one woman shows that were done here in Manhattan, you know, small venues in New Jersey, a number of times. And same people kept coming back because her music is so fabulous. And I didn't think of writing something for her right away. I tried to get other people to do it. I wrote her biography along the way because, you know, I met her through a singer, Maxine Brown, who had done a couple of her songs. And after I retired, I was writing for local newspapers. And, you know, usually human interest stories. And the singer said, well, why don't write one about Rose? And I did. And Rose just kept saying she called up because people didn't know her. Yet they know her music. I mean, it's been in shows and Tina musical. It's one of her songs is in that, and has been in the same song was in the movie, and I said, well, people should know her. So I talked to, you know, authors that knew her that would interview her for that because I'm writing a book on, you know, rhythm and blues or something, and so she was telling people all the time. She was taking me to visit people that she knew, and she'd say, she used to call me Arlene. Arlene is going to make me famous. And she'd invite me, take me to all these people to visit. And I said, Rose, I don't know how to do that. I have to stop saying that. She says, and about the third time, she says, I have to keep saying it because if I keep saying it, you'll have to do it. And so I wrote the book myself. I wanted to do an autobiography. She had a great way of speaking and explaining things, you know, like I was born in a little town, as you pass through without even knowing you're passing through, you know? But I couldn't because she wouldn't talk about certain things. And, you know, like if I said, what about the racism growing up? She was a Black woman and down south in Arkansas. And she said, well, it was what it was. I said, well, that won't describe anything. So what about the cover records? Yeah, well, I made money when a big white person would cover something a Black person had done. She said, oh, yeah. So I said, well, that's not going to explain anything. So I did it, you know, half in her words and mine, you know, putting things into contextual, whatever. And I used a lot of her, I think 49 or 51 songs, and I had to go to 49 or 51, those numbers are stuck, music publishers, because she wasn't like a Carole King and those other songwriters. In fact, she came before. She was the 50s, early 50s, she started. I wish this would stop telling me that I get mail. You know, she worked for anybody and they would go to her. So she has like hundreds of music publishers.
Wow.
And I had to ask each one, can I use these 4 lines from her song because it tells it goes with the story, and I used titles of her songs. She's got about, I think BMI has 830 songs right now in her catalog, but she was also an ASCAP writer under a different name, which caused problem because a couple people wrote under that name, and some of them are lost. I have the music, but some of those songs, they're not someplace. So I was doing these other shows, and when the COVID came, and I had a lot of time to sit around and think, I said, both of these, reparations, the issue of educating people about reparations, what it is and why it's called for. I said, I know so much about that, and I still, believe in that. And Rose, and I'm supposed to make her famous, as she said. So I put the two together because she was hurt. She's not in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And though she's written a lot more songs than other people, though she was the first, really, there were other Black songwriters, but none who wrote as much as she did. And that's all she did for like 6 decades. She's had songs out.
Wow.
Because of a lot of them were for rhythm and blues artists who were like Ruth Brown and Nappy Brown and Big Maybelle and Big Joe Turner. They weren't played on major radio stations. Instead, we heard Patti Page and Perry Como. And because of that, though they were #1 hits, a lot of them, a lot of people don't know about them. So I, so that's where I thought the reparations, I want to get her into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. I've had, the 100 Black Women, which is an organization national organization in the United States. I've had them petitioning the Songwriters Hall of Fame, but, they're young, and to get women in, it took a long time to even get a woman into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And most of them white until recently. And I spoke to one woman who said, who is in the Songwriters Hall of Fame, Sylvia Moy, and she said, Rose isn't in. She said, how could that be? She's got 4 times as many hits as me, and she's the one that let us know we could do it. So, that's part of it. And because it's a small show, it's one person playing Rose, and then there's an opening act of 2 guys who tap dance, and they talk about the reparations. Rose doesn't. Rose may mention things about cover records or hit on the topic, but it's sort of like, it is what it is. The opening act is more like, why not? And a little bit of, letter to the president. And so, I figure that soon.
Yeah.
I do have a company interested in doing it. I mean, they're getting ready to, start working on it. And, but, I've done a lot of stuff, a lot of shows about her. I had one, and then as she was getting older, and I had a publisher, and then they said, no, you got to go here. It's not going to make enough money for us. Go to other places. I didn't hear back from them. I said, the heck with that. I'll just write the book myself. And I did. And that took a lot of my time. And the first best show that I think it's going to work out fine, except I'm probably going to have to take it out since Tina has. I don't think they're going to let that slide.
Maybe.
They might, maybe. I don't know. Depends on what contract they have. Being a school teacher, falling into this, I go to True because I learn so much more from them.
Yeah.
And I'm not in New York anymore. I don't drive at night. I'm not. Well, nobody's really going too much in New York anymore right now, but they will be. But I stopped that quite a while ago when. The first show, which was, I wanted to call Lady Writes the Blues, but I was told that you can't do that. because somebody has like a patent on. I know you can have the same title, but you can't. You'll never fight them. So uh, I went under a couple of names, and that one I even got an agent out of it, and somebody who wanted to put money into it. Except I was good friends with his wife, and I said, "No, you lose money when you go in there."
Yeah, never go with your
Okay,
friends.
it's my money. I said, "No, I can't do that." And an agent, and I had Elizabeth Falk, a director who has directed a lot of opera, the first female director in the Globe Theatre in London, and she was very much for it and pushing it. And then a couple things happened, and I just said, I can't afford to keep doing this, so.
Well, congratulations on getting it together and putting it on and creating it and bringing back and to life someone that most of us don't know yet. Like you said, wrote over 800 songs. It's so sad that someone who's so talented and prolific and should be known isn't. And the problem is she's going to be lost in time. And in 10 years, honestly, unless this happens and unless you can get this up, how many people are going to remember? And which is sad. So I'd love to see this show at some point, give Rose the due she is due.
Yeah, I certainly, as I'm getting older, because I met her when she was 79,
Mm-hmm.
and she passed, she was 92. And I'm getting very close to that age. I'm saying, well, not the 92,
Okay.
79 one. And I'm saying, well, I have to get this out there. I have to get this out. So I was so
Yeah.
happy to get connected. Somebody suggested it's a company, a theater company called Good Light Productions.
Mm.
And it was founded by an African-American female, and Carolyn Harrison. And and I said, well, this is a great place. This is where it should go. We're always saying there's no diversity in the theater, no females, not many female directors, etc. And I'm very excited to go there. And Tabitha Matthews is the artistic director. And I met them Zoom, but we're going to meet finally together, and they are planning to put this. They've committed to this show, so I'm happy about that. But I like to get the other show. The other show is really, I mean, it was in a festival, but just a short piece. And a few of my friends who went said, everybody was saying this is Broadway, because her music is Broadway. It's very, there's a lot of show tuning. She's a storyteller, so I'm not just throwing songs in just because, people know them, because they probably don't know a lot of them. Most of them. I didn't use songs that. I did use an Elvis hit and I can Tina Turner hit and one Nat King Cole hit. But, out of 26 songs, those are I think the only ones that people would probably know. And maybe one that's in Five Guys Named Mo, but different time.
Hey, I'd rather have the songs fit the story and take it along than me know them. I'd rather get to know these songs in the context that they are. So is the show Rose and Reparations? Is it a biography, or is it a combination of her life and other things, or how would you describe that?
It is it's not a comedy. Though, it's not. She's at a club. This the first act is behind stage, and so the tap dancers are talking and little sort of rapping and talking about different things. And she comes on, and then they sing a song together, one of hers that this other one knew, and then she's introduced. And the second act is she's on stage. She's performing in a black and tan club. So there are some, white people in there, black people, and she even shows them how to clap on the 2 and 4. So, so that it brings the audience in. It probably it would work well in a cabaret scene, cutting out a little bit of the dialogue. But she does talk about her life, and she just explains she's not going to sing her hits. She's going to sing songs about her life, and her music, her life and her music. And so it explains a little bit about the blues, but she also wrote country, which really isn't just white music as people believe. And so she educates while she's up there, and about her life, and a little bit about the music and writing songs and how much she loved. You could describe yourself. There is it's an hour-long documentary, and she says a singer first and then a songwriter, because she rather perform, I think, than write a song. She loved both, but I've seen her in her 80s perform. I got her into the Arkansas Black Hall of Fame, and it's a big deal there. It's televised. There's 900 people, black tie. The governor is there, and we sat with him, and she got up and entertained. And Al Bell, who he was one time president of Motown Records. He was started out as a DJ, but he also owned Stax Records, which were all very popular places. He got up there, and he first she sang. He came over to me and gave me all his phone numbers. This is my office number. He said, call me up. He was so impressed, and everybody there was talking about her performance. He said it was like the third word out of her mouth, the third note. He said she was the audience and they were her. He says, I've never seen such. She was a great performer because she loved it. She loved people, and she, it was where, unfortunately, she never made it. And one disc jockey told me that plays that older music and a lot of the blues, and he said, the technology back then when she was recording, because RCA recorded, a number of people recorded her, but they didn't become hits. Her voice didn't record well. And now they have different, then they went 8 tracks and whatever they do now. But she was a great singer, and she was, and even in her 80s too. I made a 15-minute documentary for schools, and it's about her life, but it's about taking a big goal and breaking it down, and it doesn't happen overnight. It took her 10 years to become, in 10 years, and just a few years, she bought a house, a Cadillac, and later on a yacht. She said she made so much money, and that was, that was in like 3 years she did that. So how many songs she sold and got advances for the songs. So she just had a way about her that was made it very interesting. You wanted to be around. She was very soulful, very funny and soulful. Her sad songs will make you cry, and the other ones are just, One Monkey Don't Stop No Show. Bette Midler did that 40 years after Big Maybelle did it. A lot of her songs people discovered, artists discovered and recorded later. So,
well, what are some of the songs that people might recognize that made it big?
Elvis Presley, I Beg of You. I Can Tina Turner, I Think It's Going to Work Out Fine. This beautiful Sarah Vaughan song, but it was on an album that she did 6 for Sarah Vaughan. It was on an album that Sarah hated. They put a clown on the cover, and so she never pushed it. And they did another album by the same title, in fact. But let's see. My Personal Possession was a Nat King Cole hit, but I think a lot of her songs weren't played on radio, on on the oldies radio later, because they have people who go and plug them and say there's certain ways that they got caught doing this, and it
Yeah.
was stopped, but that now they do it differently. So she doesn't really have that. She has no, I spoke to somebody at a major publishing company who was after a lot of Rose's songs. After so many years, you know, can take them, and she could take them back, or somebody else could go buy her stuff. So I asked them, I said, well, why don't you try to get, I want to try to get Rose into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And they said, we tried that with one of our artists and it came back, how much are you going to give us? Because their big fundraiser, the tickets, I think, are either 1,200 or 1,500 a seat. That's
Wow.
that's the starting price, starting. And I said, well, I can't get a table there. You know, so
Yeah.
it's like $15,000 and we'll sit by the kitchen probably. So, you know, I thought maybe embarrassing them would you know, like,
Yeah.
hey, look, so-and-so in, who probably didn't even write those. So I just sang. They have more singers there lately. That you know, people are singing their own songs than songwriters, because you know, the business kind of went a little bit when artists discovered they could write, and still, if you're big, you can still sell your songs. I don't care
Yeah.
what they sound like. So yeah, I don't know how this is going to work out, but let's see what other songs are in there that you might know. A lot of things you don't know, but they really like. I do the best I can with what I got. It's a
Yeah.
great song. It gets everybody up. It's I have two of the songs that her last song she wrote. It came out in a country album, 2013.
Wow.
Yeah, so I know she wrote them before that, like probably 2010. I don't know when she.
Still.
Yeah, I know. So they're beautiful. They're just you know, I'm down like an eagle with two broken wings after you know,
Yeah.
Jimmy Scott was I met Jimmy Scott a few times through her, and little Jimmy Scott, I don't know if you know who he is, a
No.
great jazz singer. He disappeared for a while, and then all of a sudden he's in Japan. He's all over. Very, you know, there's books about him and a couple of videos. And he knew her when they even sang in clubs together, not together, but you know, in the same club at the same time.
Yeah.
And she wrote about 11 songs for him. And one of them, he didn't even know about it. And it's called I'll Be All Right. So after, you know, things are falling apart for her, she writes a song, I'll Be All Right, after a while. And she was. So uh, it's more than the names of the song, like Nat King Cole, My Personal Possession. He did it on one of his shows and it was you know, a hit. But nobody plays that, because who's going to play you know, a guy singing to his "You Are My Personal Possession," you know, like it you know, that one probably nobody would play anymore. And but it is beautiful. It's one of the funnier parts of the show, frankly, because she wasn't going to be anybody's personal possession. She you know, she remained independent and did all that, which I think is even more to me more interesting than that she wrote so many songs. That it was the way she did it, the way going to somebody and say, I got this song, you know, the whole business was different and very interesting. So hopefully, you know, people are getting to know her. There are things on the internet. I, I we're at the very beginning working with a woman who does documentaries for public television, and she's, you know, we've gotten together, except COVID stopped us from going to Arkansas and where she lived and doing taping there. So you know, hopefully people learn about her then, and there's a lot of stuff on the internet. You know, if it's Marie McCoy, it's two words, and a songwriter, and you'll find a lot of things that were put up by people.
Well, Arlene, thank you for introducing myself and the world to Rose. And as soon as you have that show on somewhere, you let us know, because I would love to be able to see it and hear it and learn more about it and promote it, so we can get the the word out about not just your show, but to make sure Rose isn't forgotten. Like unfortunately, so many fantastic songwriters through time. So congratulations on writing the show, Arlene.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And thank you for letting me tell more people about Rosemary McCoy, because as she said, you're going to have to do it now.
and that is the greatest words. You're going to have to do it now. It's a great inspirational line to end this.
Guilt. She knew. She had guilt on her, and she'll do it. She'll do it. I just hope she knows this. And she saw the book, but I never got to get out there. She was taken out to Illinois to live the last couple of years, and I said, well, I'm going to come and read the book, but it came out like November. It was finished, and I sent one out. So she saw the picture, but she was in the hospital, and I never got to read it to her. So that's really,
well, let's not lose her and forget about her. So again, thank you, Arlene, for coming on the show and talking to us today.
thank you.
And we were speaking with Arlene Corsano, the creator of Rose and Reparations. Tune in next week as we'll speak with another guest or guest about the life, love, and passion that is musical theater. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanoff. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.